Hey folks, if you're like me, you probably have some new skis that you need to get prepped for the season. We're reposting a revised version of our Ski Prep 101 below, but this video will kind of briefly go through some things to help you make sure you get your skis ready to go on snow. If you were to just go and ski on a ski right out of the plastic, it would work okay, but you would probably find that you get the base a little bit white. White coloring on the edges show that the base is getting dehydrated while you're out there skiing. Even if you put a lot of really warm layers into a ski, that wax will actually get stripped out regardless, which is why we want to prep the base with 1 to 2 layers of warm wax, then a super cold wax, and then a layer of your everyday wax. I use this, I just got some Toco stuff in, so this like a Toco red, or this non-fluoro red, that's going to work great for your just basic layer. You could put 1 to 2 layers in of the basic red or yellow wax. You basically want to use a pretty soft, pretty warm wax. Let each of the initial layers cool and then scrape and brush out each layer. Having a sharp scraper will help. Kind of the best 10 bucks you might spend as a waxer. If you don't have a scraper sharpener, you can actually just use regular sandpaper too. If you throw the sandpaper down, just rubbing the scraper on top of the sandpaper like that will help give you a sharp edge. Totally fine to do that too. Also in between these layers, give it a full brush. I've been using this brass brush, new brass brush from Toco. These are single directional brushes and they don't come marked that way. So when you do get a brush like this, a brass brush, they work really well at pulling all the wax out of the base. You get a nice brush job, but make sure you put a directional arrow on those once you get them and only use it in that direction. Nylon brush like this, these you can kind of just go any direction. Next, we will apply 1 layer of a super cold hot wax. The reason we use a cold wax is because cold waxes are very hard, much harder than your average red or yellow wax. This hard layer of wax will act as a barrier to help keep the first few layers from getting stripped out. So after the 2 layers of red, you can use a Toco Blue. Toco Blue is a quite cold wax. It's much, don't think like a Swix Blue is the same as a Toco Blue. Swix Blue is quite a bit warmer. This is probably too warm for your super cold layer, so you either want to use a CH4 or a Toco Blue. For this, I'll use a Toco Blue. So I'll put 1 full layer of Toco Blue into the ski. Anytime you're using a super hard wax like that, you want to make sure you're keeping the iron moving. So not like doing laundry, we like to say. You want to kind of go tip to tail with it, keep it moving. Let the ski cool for a hot sec, go tip to tail again if you have to, and even do it a 3rd time instead of hitting one area over and over again. So once the cold wax is into the base, I recommend actually letting it sit, not just for 1 hour, 2 hours, but for several hours. I'll actually leave mine overnight. It's amazing how much more a super hard wax can set into the base if you leave it for several hours, and especially leaving it in a cold place. Like I'll just leave mine in the garage for 24 hours, and that will help that hard wax, that blue wax or that green wax that you're using, really firm up all the way down into the pores of the ski. You want the wax to harden all the way down into the pores. So let it sit for a long time, come through and scrape it. After you've scraped your super cold layer of wax off of your ski, you can then put any type of wax you're going to want to be using as a glide wax. A lot of people use CH6 as a general testing wax, or again, a Toco Red might be just fine for you. So after you pull the cold layer off, put another layer of normal wax down and your skis are ready to go. Your base has been conditioned. For you folks that have new classic skis that you're getting ready to prep, the base can be prepped the exact same way with the 2 layers of a warm wax, 1 layer of super cold, and then back into your normal glide wax. But you also want to get the kick zones prepared. And one of the ways to do that, you can usually bring it to a shop and they might have a fancy flex testing machine. But the other way you can do it is by doing what we call a paper test. This, when I would do this, I would just have an athlete. You can do this on a gym floor, you can do it on a kitchen table or a counter or something. Put both skis down. You want to have an athlete come and stand with equal weight on top of the skis. And as the athlete is standing with equal weight, you can take a piece of paper and slide it in between. And as the paper stops, that's going to be the front of the wax pocket. And you can slide the paper back, and that would be the back of the wax pocket. So that's a pretty simple way to dial in your wax pocket. I would make a dash with a Sharpie on either end of that, but that's not set in stone. From there, you're gonna kind of wanna play around with it and wax your skis a few times. 220 grit sandpaper. To do that, you can kind of go hash marked if you want, like that, all the way down, but you can really just kind of go back and forth and then smooth it out down like that. Really can't go wrong to just make sure you wax that pocket. This is going to help keep the kick wax or clister, whatever you're using on the base of your ski. It's going to keep it on there and prevent that wax from stripping off.